Good morning all. For the session, we will be discussing on the term Basel norms or Basel accounts. Basel norms or Basel account or Basel criteria, whatever it is something which is related with the banking sector. The banking supervisors or the banking superiors just decided to make a unified reform or pattern of banking sector across the globe for strengthening the banking practices. For the same, they had given rise to the topic of concern, that is Basel norms. In the year 1974, actually the regulations are introduced by the committee known as BCBS, that is Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. Then why the term Basel? Actually, the committee just give rise to the topic Basel norm in Switzerland. There is a place known as Basel in Switzerland, and the committee formed the norms in that place. Hence, the term is known as Basel. And Basel norms is having three pattern or three tier system. First one is Basel 1, second Basel 2, and Basel 3. Basel 4 is yet to start since 2023. Just 1 month left. Okay, and Basel 1 was introduced in the year 1988, Basel 2 in the year 2004, and Basel 3 in the year 2018. And now discussing each criteria in detail. First one is Basel 1. So Basel 1 was established in 1988 to focus on the credit risk faced by the banks as remedial measures to solve the risk faced by the banks, credit risk. The same focused on risk-weighted assets and capital requirements of the banks. So with respect to the same, the risk of the bank can be of 5 types, that is 0%, 10%, 20%, 50%, or 100%. 0% or 0 is fine, 10% or 0.1, 20% or 0.2, 50% or 0.5, 100% or 1. As per Basel norms 1, all banks are supposed to maintain a capital adequacy ratio or CAR in short of 8%. It is a criteria. And regarding Basel 2 norms, Basel 2 norms is having again 3 pillars. That is, pillar 1 is minimum capital requirements, pillar 2 supervisory review process, pillar 3 is market discipline or disclosure. And with respect to minimum capital requirements, all banks are supposed to maintain a minimum capital as an alternative measure to reduce the risks such as credit risk, market risk, and operational risk. Okay, with respect to regulatory supervision, as you all know, banks are usually regulated by RBI. So, regulation by the bank, central bank, was made more relevant, and also internal supervision by the commercial banks was also made mandatory. It has two processes here, that is internal control process by banks, commercial banks itself, and supervisory review and evaluation process or SREP by the central bank, that is RBI. With respect to market discipline or the third pillar of Basel II norms, banks need to compulsorily information with respect to their CAR or capital adequacy ratio, risk exposure, etc. to the central bank as and when they states. And with respect to Basel III, the latest as of now was introduced in the year 2007-9 as to reduce the shortcomings or errors which had caused due to the financial crisis of that time. The basic aim was to strengthen the regulation, supervision, and risk management of the banks. Regulation, supervision, and risk management measures were focused here. The main objective was to increase or enhance the liquidity measures, the ability of banks to quickly convert into cash management, and to reduce the bank's leverage or risk, to increase the liquidity and reduce the risk. That was the main objectives behind Basel III, the latest one. It is also having three pillars. First one is just to increase the bank's ability to observe ups and just cope up with the downs or limitations whenever it is coming in, to increase the financial and economic stability or balance. And pillar 2 is just to improve the risk management ability and the governance of the banking sector. That is the ability of the banks to manage risk. Risk is supposed to happen in banking sector. So whenever risk arises, the bank should be able to manage them. It was also focused on pillar 2. Now it is pillar 3, that is to strengthen the bank's transparency. That is, banks should disclose all the essential information to the concerned party, that is RBI, as and when the time arises. So for the day, the topic discussed was regarding Basel norms. So Basel norms was introduced in a city, Basel in Switzerland, in the year 1974 by the committee known as BCBS, to provide a unified banking regulations across the globe. Okay, and the Basel norms is based on three pillars in the ascending order, that is Basel 1, Basel 2 and Basel 3. And that's all for the day. Thank you.